Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Tommy Swagnuts, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Sampson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Nealand, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Google and Discord so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Background noise.
Oh, yeah, I was off too, kind of. I got one block to go.
Morning. Right.
Morning.
They played this little game in New York, alternate side of the street parking, so the street sweeper could come and just brush the dirt all over the other side of the street. Doesn't do nothing.
I got about 20%
Gotta
of
play
that.
the game. That's it.
Yeah, the intelligibility level of what you're saying is very low. 20%.
You try walking 100 miles an hour and talking, buddy.
You're also quite quiet, but there we go. That's just the way it is for you, it seems. I've given the show a bit more dynamics. So rather than squashing it all right down to roughly the same level and having really weird audio artifacts. There you go, got it out. I've decided to just give it a bit more dynamic range, but that means if one of the guests in G+, who I've got no control of your volume on, is quiet, as you are at the moment, that's just how you are in the recording. You're just lower than everyone else. It's just unfortunate. Just so you know, I'm sure you've heard it.
Just told me I was loud. That's why I lowered it.
Well, you're a little bit...
I was on Discord, though.
Yeah, on Discord.
How was your background noise? Like you came in like with a train sound. What do you expect it to say?
Yeah, in Discord I can level you up. Everyone's capable of being leveled up individually, which is much, much better, because I can just then rely on OBS's compressors to deal with everything after I've leveled them up. But with you guys, I have to apply all sorts of crap after the fact. Or technically before the fact, because it's before OBS's compressors, but I have to put all sorts of other layers of compressors and limiters on G+, just because there's no volume control for individual guests. Very annoying. There used to be in, what was it called, Hangouts. You could adjust the individual guests' levels. Or at least you could in Hangouts on air. Then it went to Hangouts and you couldn't, and now it's Meet and you can't either. And it's like, oh, that was one of the main features I used, being able to level up the guests. But there we go, such is life.
Righteous, you told me I was loud. You didn't say a train was passing. You said you're a bit loud. Come on.
Well, I'm still right, even though it wasn't very specific.
You have to excuse me. You're all just waking up. I don't know what it is in the UK. What is it, like 2 o'clock there? 3 o'clock? I don't know. I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning.
20 to 2 in the afternoon.
Oh, nice. I'm up as a pup. Speaking of pups, listening to that show again with the Kumo virus, it makes me want to just strangle the microphone or the phone or whatever. Very frustrating.
Maybe that was what the guy percent was trying to get across when he's like, this is a... I won't swear this early in the show, but this isn't good. I'm like, oh, right, white knighting for the Glober because he's being pummeled. He's like, no, we're going around in circles. It's like, yeah, of course we are. He's lost. So he's got to keep it going round in circles for as long as possible to make it mitigate the defeat that he's experiencing in the moment. Now, it's hard to say that when you're riled up and in the middle of a discussion and you just get interrupted by someone on your own side who then has to be clarified as being on your own side but telling you you've got a poor show. You're like, okay, thanks for disturbing the flow. That is how it goes down here for the fundies on the Globe side. Admittedly, it was useful in the end because he's like, I was the first to say you can't acquire a straight line from a globe. So it's like, okay, great. So you're rounding out this point, which is good. So your interjection's worthwhile because you're reiterating the point that we're going around in circles on. And was, the whole discussion was started off with a clip being played from 24/7 Discord where their sides are up against the wall because they haven't got a straight line and they're being asked, or the guy's pointing out, I don't know where you're getting the straight line from, the Globe believer is. So, going around in circles saying I can get a straight line but it's all bent, but I can get a straight line but it's all bent. It's like, yeah, that's their pain. Now, that is how it goes here. I can't do much about it apart from continually reiterate the point, because how can I force my opponent into concession? I can't. But for the audience, unless he concedes, it's like, well, where are we going to go? Well, you've got to hear the same point drummed in over and over again. And there's been at least one occasion where someone's come on the show and said that is actually beneficial, as much as it might be frustrating for you, because the point's being drummed home over and over again. It's being reiterated. Go on, Neil.
That's not what he meant. No, that frustrates me because I want to strangle a Kumu virus because I know you're getting it and you're being a fundie. And how can you not, why are you not waking up to this fact? You were calculating a freaking, I forgot the word, an illusion.
Oh, this was the second part of the discussion. I did keep a little bit of that. I've trimmed it out. It'll go out. What's the name of the show? Free Sextant.
I enjoy it. I didn't think it was. I'm not saying it because I wanted to change. I'm frustrated at him, but the show's fine. I think the percent guy is just getting annoyed and he wants to. It's not edifying to him because maybe he's been there, done that, got it, and he wants to move forward, and he's not understanding that other people are going to hear this and benefit from it.
Yeah, my opinion is, to speak of percentage in this way makes no sense to me because of my experience with him. Because
he's an idiot?
No, but he doesn't care about when somebody is putting forth fallacious logic. So they can beg the question, they can do all these things, and because of that, they'll go around in circles for hours and hours.
Oh, and he's complaining about that?
So it seems about hypocritical is what I'm saying,
okay.
From him. Because for the same reason he's upset is the same reason that every time I go in a room where he is and try to take control of the conversation, I'm upset at the same thing. So I don't get why he would even. I don't get.
I think he was in line. There. I think we're all in line with each other's frustrations in this regard, and just the timing wasn't necessarily that great. And in terms of that timing, his timing was akin to a white knight jumping in to save the fundie who's getting pummeled. So I just mistook his timing for white knighting, and it wasn't. He's just expressing the same frustration that I'm vocally demonstrating to my audience by way of the argument itself. Now, fortunately, as I've already stated, he was useful because he reiterated the winning point. So at least someone saying, this is going around in circles, therefore a poor show. And I go, well, I'll reiterate the point to you then, obviously, because you're a white knight. And he goes, no, I understand there are no straight lines on a sphere. So he rounds out the point, which meant, to speak to Neil's point earlier, that we could segue quite beautifully into Coriolis effect with a quick conclusion being drawn. So it meant at the end of the video I've trimmed out, which is called Free Sextant, you can see that there's also a strapped-on added Brucey bonus that's contemporaneous with the discussion, where Coriolis effect gets smashed in about 5 or 6 minutes. And again, admittedly, the double speaking does start after I've ended that edit, but the point's made and concluded in terms of having Coriolis effect deflection underneath, a concession that is precisely what's being claimed by the Globe side, a little bit of double speak around the fact that we don't have it, because we don't, and then the conclusion being drawn, we don't have any Coriolis effect underneath the balloon, and then I think it's Virus says, okay, that's as much as a concession as we get. Okay, so we don't get it. It's like, well, that was the point of ending the video, but it was a 2-for-1 as a result of his interjection, and I'll say it one more time, it was beneficial because he summarised the main winning point. No, they don't have straight lines on a globe. Therefore, the argument is void.
Correct.
It's just timing. If he's listening to this percent after the fact, it's just timing. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, but it does get a little frustrating, but it is beneficial because, I mean, they just keep opening up their mouths and QEs, right? Just let them talk. Let them talk. They'll hang themselves 10 times over. But the amazing thing to me is the next day he's in the chat claiming victory. Claiming the same thing, that
they all do that.
We misrepresent the globe.
Well, they all do that. So I'll put out a whole series of Bob the Science Guy videos because it's humiliating. Well, it still doesn't mean there's going to be people out there that are literally going to say that I'm running from him or I'm scared of him or something to that effect. Because they're idiots, because they're delusional.
Yeah, but to not be woken up by the fact that you spent that time and you were calculating an illusion. If that's not like, oh shoot,
I didn't
what
edit
the
that
hell
bit
am
out.
I doing?
I didn't do that bit because when I listen back to it, it's like my frustration looked bad on me because I just launched into berating him, severely berating him, and was potentially going to hold the show open indefinitely to berate him indefinitely. If it wasn't for QE stepping in and going, okay, at this point I'm going to have to remove him, because I was saying, no, you're going to remove yourself or you're going to stay and be berated for your stupidity. And after about 10 minutes of it, QE just said, no, I'm stepping in. He didn't say, but he did. Just say, right, that's the end of your time here. Which would be normally what I do in the right state of mind. It's like, okay, that's the end of your time here. You are just going to chant for 4 straight hours if we allow you to continue to be here. And in that case, I was like, well, I want him to do that so at least people can see it, because it hasn't happened for a while. Because typically I'd say, right, muted, booted, bye-bye, end of your time. Won't tolerate you chanting through every single word from this point forward. But in that case, I was so outraged at the fact that he got it so wrong in terms of describing Coriolis effect and ascribing a Newton value to it. I was that pissed off that I was like, no, you justify being berated for 4 hours over that.
So you let him go and let him do that whole thing so you could catch him in the end on that, I'm assuming.
No, I had to establish what he was claiming first. So I got a vague idea of what he was going towards, but typically they'll be smart enough to only hint at that rather than overtly state it. So when he's literally ascribing a Newton value of force of deflection to a balloon based on its kilograms, you're ascribing a force to a not actual effect. You're thick. At this point you are just stupid. But I had to wait until he actually made that absolutely implicitly clear on at least one occasion, with a couple of vague versions of the same thing with descriptions of asking us, or moreover reversing the burden and telling us that we need to give him the parameters for him to calculate how much force is applied to an illusion. Just absurd. But that, like I say, that was the point that I got so frustrated and angry with him that I was just launched into berating him, justifiably so, admittedly, but I'm like, yeah, it doesn't look great. So I'll edit the bit before.
Yeah, sometimes I feel the same way. Like, if my pet does something and maybe I smack him on the nose, I get a little upset, and at myself, like, why did I do that? It's just a dumb dog. He didn't know he peed. He has no clue. So I understand how you feel about your pets.
I do refer to them as dogs often, because they're sniffing around me, aren't they? Seeking out my attention.
Hey Nathan, hey everyone.
Hey Brian.
I'm going to be on mute for a while. I'll be listening, but I'll be on mute for the next 25-30 minutes, okay?
Yeah, no bother. When you do get back, I'll chit-chat with you about your most recent video, which I haven't managed to sit through. I just haven't had time because of various different education things for my kids. But there we go, that's life. But when you do get back, I'll hopefully have a chat with you about it so you can fill me in on what I haven't seen.
Yeah, okay, no hassles if you want. Excellent, thank you.
I'd normally see it, like I say, on I think it came out on Tuesday, and I started watching it and then had to go to a class, which is like an hour drive. But there we go. So I got back and didn't have time to watch it, and then same yesterday. Oh well.
You can't see all of them, so what can you do? You're busy, you have to do what you have to do. You know,
Yeah, but it's stuck in my... You might say that, but it's when there's a video you want to watch, it sticks in your mind that you haven't watched it, especially when you start watching the first 2 or 3 minutes. And the premise, I've got the premise of the video, and I could probably guess what you say in the video, but I don't want to, right? You've done the research. I want to hear it from you. I'd much prefer to just sit through the video, but I just haven't had time, which is annoying. Whereas some videos, you'll sit through the first 2 minutes and, you know, it's by somebody who you know, and I'm not going to mention anybody who would do this because I'd deeply offend them, but you're like, yeah, I've got the idea, you know, and then you move on. Whereas some of the things, well, most of the things that you cover, I know from past experience and being shouted at by you that it's best to get all of the information absolutely straight before I start making conclusions about the point you're making, even though I've watched the first few minutes. So I'm not going to do that again. I don't like being told off by Brian. Anyway, I'm tying you up when you said you want to be on mute. So yeah, we'll come back to you in, I don't know, about 2:30 or something.
No hassles, no hassles. No, what it is that the video is a precursor. I won't say what it is because for anyone that might be listening back to this, it's a precursor for something that's coming down the road. I tend to do that. I'll make a video and it might be a bit long and a bit jumbled together, but then somewhere down the line I make the total concise version. Although this does have stuff in it that's important, there's another version I can feel coming down the line that will nail just a specific topic, and it'll cover a range of things. So that's what it is. Anyway, I'll talk to you about it in a while. Thank you.
Look forward to it. Notice the stint of quiet, nice, calm, deliberated, detailed explanations for globe debunkings ended a couple of days ago when Virus decided that he wanted to pipe up about drift, and then again with Bob. Doesn't take long. Just it must gnaw at them when we're doing that, right? Because we don't just sort of sit around in silence. We're all fascinated by this subject, me especially. So I want to talk about it, and doesn't need another fundy here. And a few people have said, "Oh, it's not a debate." It's like you look up the definition of debate, and so long as both sides are being represented, doesn't mean that the one person who's representing one side of the argument has to believe it. As long as it's represented, and it is. You know, if anything, the people who represent it when there aren't any true fundies here are better at it than they would be. Certainly better from an educational standpoint because it's concise. If Arwin's doing it, occasionally you have to rein him in. You know, he gets a bit carried away with the fundy motions of doing the chanting and circle jerking and conceptualizing, all that sort of stuff. But on the other hand, it is so much more realistic when Arwin plays devil's advocate. I'm glad he's not here to hear all this. He is the best at it. There's no two ways about it. Because if I do say to Arwin, "No, come on, can you please cut the chanting out?" He would just stop on a dime, you know, and revert to concession on behalf of their true argument, which he understands implicitly. So, like, who would you rather listen to if you're actually trying to get to grips with the argument? I would listen to Arwin in a heartbeat over someone like Virus, because if you do listen to someone like Virus, like we were complaining about earlier, it takes someone like percent to step in and sing his praises on this occasion, to actually concisely summarise why the point that's a winning point is a winning point, because up until that point it's just both sides reasserting that the other doesn't understand their point. So you've got to make a choice, you've got to decide which one's correct. Well, being derogatory to some of the audience, some people really do need it laying out. I gave the example of my mother a few years back with Robin Poe talking about a 115-mile straight line from a transceiver to a transmitter. And you're like, okay, she's got a flat earth beneath her then, but she didn't lay it out. So when it's in debate, it's even more convoluted. You've got to have someone actually make the concise summary at the end, ideally with a concession from the person who's made the original point that's been taken to pieces. So It's one of them. I'd
That's
rather
one
have
of the great
Arwen.
parts of your
Go on.
That's one of the great parts of your show. I remember even when I was listening earlier, a few years back, you always explained it very well, and not just one time. It was repeated, so you get to understand things better when they're repeated and they're repeated again.
Well, especially for new people, right, who haven't heard it enough times. Sometimes it takes a few times for something to sink in. This is for everybody. I'm not just putting anybody down.
Yeah, and you got to remember, I'm coming from just finding videos and hearing DITRH just say something about Nathan Oakley. So I go over there and I've never heard anything like this before. Never heard really a debate, and I was like, wow, this is my show.
Well, it's important for the audience to note that your best friend is your own research. So after you hear something being said here, it can't stop there. If you really want to be a part of the conversation and helpful, you have to research on your own. And you're not researching the flat earth. You're looking into your current belief if you still hold that.
Okay,
Yeah, well,
bear in mind.
I believe in the
Hold on.
heliocentric model.
Just bear in mind,
that
right?
happened on the first shows I listened to.
Well,
I took
I
the
was
drone
almost
up.
finished with my point. Almost.
Go on then, Eli. Sorry.
Sorry, buddy.
So
Go
when
on,
you have
Eli.
a belief, the first thing you should do is verify the claims in your belief. You can't do that. That's a red flag. That's something that you should be looking into. That's how you kind of just wake up and realize, oh, I'm a flat earther. That's how it happens.
Yeah. Did you want to get your point, and then I'll. I don't know.
I was just saying that happens like in the beginning. I remember taking my drone up and trying to see some things, and doing other things, and trying to do whatever I can to try and see if these things are true.
Okay. Unfortunately, you're preaching to the converted. So I don't know if you were here the other day when I was not criticising, but basically appealing to Jaron in terms of his former expressions of people doing their own research. Do your own research. Don't trust me. I think in a recent upload he was saying, look, I'm just not going to tell people that anymore. And I totally agree with him, because it goes without saying for the people who will and can do that anyway. The people with critical thinking don't need telling that they need to go and double check what they've just heard and verify it and possibly look into the opponent's position and get a good idea of the opponent's position as well. Those people just don't need telling that. The people who do need telling that will not do it. And further to that, we've got several accounts now, one of which is Conspiracy Cats on Haunted Houses channel, who will describe precisely why they don't want to do that. If I'm paraphrasing, apply critical thought to this particular aspect of my day-to-day life, i.e. the nature of reality, and it's true, then that would ultimately infer that there's lots of other things in my day-to-day life that I'm yet to assess that should really be assessed, but that's pretty scary, because it might all be lies. Well, those are the very people that you're appealing to with that statement, Eli. Do your own research is a way of appealing to the masses to do something that they would be capable of and would be doing if they were adept at critical thinking to begin with, but you're not going to give it to them by saying that. So I don't know. I just think it's going to fall on deaf ears, and the people who prick their ears up, nod along, and are doing it anyway.
That was a good point. Did Jaron come up with that, or?
Jaron used to say, do your own research, and then I can't remember exactly what he said. It's one of those. I haven't watched it repeatedly. I just remember him saying something to the effect of, I'm not going to encourage people to double check what I'm saying anymore, because it's just, that's down to you, and I'm sick of saying it, and the amount of people who don't do that and won't even watch the video I'm actually making when they make a comment, blah, 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 blah. I can't, I'd have to go back and check exactly how.
Yeah, he just said that on the first comedy hour for the NASA. He's like, I don't care what you guys do. I'm not doing this to educate, the people who won't be educated. You do what you want at this point. If you don't realize whatever, who cares?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I get you.
Yeah, well, that's my point, and I completely agree with him. It's like, by saying, don't just trust what I say, go and do your own research. It's like, well, the people in between are there because they just want him to tell them what they need to know so they don't have to do the research. So when they hear that bit, they go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then they go and watch some cat videos because they've got the information that they wanted. It's affirmed their bias and no further input is needed. You know, they've got their fix. I'm talking about the people on the flat earth side here. So, you know, it's like the contrasting people who are like, no, you're wrong. They're just there telling him he's wrong without looking into what he said or checking out or double checking or reviewing their claim in the first instance to see if it is actually correct. They'll just spew. You're wrong. It's like, okay, I'm not going to tell you to go and do your own research and check if I'm actually wrong or recheck your claim and faith that you're not in any way debunking me by telling me I'm wrong in my comments. So, you know, I sincerely agree. There's going to be... It's just fruitless to assume that you're going to change the world in that respect. The world hasn't changed. The world was always flat. Now, the fact that we perceptually had this notion drummed into us from pretty much birth, that it's a sphere beneath our feet and all these crazy notions, the assessment of that is capable and will be done by some. For the rest of them, they don't want to. They're lazy.
Correct.
Causing a bit of audio chaos there, Eli.
Oh, shoot. Well, I agree. Let me go on mute.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Eli, Neil, Brian's Logic, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Morning, morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good evening, Nathan.
Good evening.
Hola.
Sorry for yelling at you to shut up yesterday, Solar. My bad. Was that Solar? Whoever's voice said hello, Nathan, just a moment ago.
No, that was me, Rams.
Rams. Yeah, sorry, my bad, Rams. Yeah.
Shut up, Rams.
Yeah. I don't know who it is till I listen back and do the edits.
Dr. Bob's going to arrive for his appointment this today.
What appointment?
Oh, he ain't coming.
I didn't make an appointment. What are you
The
talking
appointment he arranged for himself yesterday.
I see. I'm going to come in and consult for you. I'll make the appointment for you. Hold on, you're not even my doctor. What are you doing? You crazy, batshit insane nonsense head.
It's like going to a doctor and saying, hey, can you give me an appointment? when you're at the doctor's office. Real smart.
Anywho, any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
But when do you want to go over this? Tomorrow, 9 o'clock?
Let's organise a time to talk about it.
We talk about it now. Come on, be reasonable. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
We're gonna need Bob for that.
Oh God, we don't need Bob for that. We'll need R for that.
No evidence, and you're right. We need R for that, and we don't have a radius.
Perhaps we need Rob for that?
Before I let Arwin in, don't mention that we were buttering him up and saying how great he is, okay? Let's just not mention that. Hey, Arwin. Hello? Check. No sound. No sound.
Hello?
Hello? Good to have you.
Can you hear me?
I can.
All right.
Didn't catch
your
show
sound
today.
issue?
Busy editing, sorry. Do you have a good show?
All right. Yeah, it was pretty intense. Again, that was good.
Give Arwin props. If you're listening to this, having listened to the pre-show, this will make a bit more sense. But if you do happen to go over to Arwin's show, subscribe today to ARWIJN, that's Arwin channel, for the Flat Earth Early Bird, you get a very different side of Arwin. So we were actually singing your praises, although I just literally told people not to bring this up. But yeah, on Arwin's show, he's very different in terms of the information delivery. It's very much him delivering his actual rhetoric and what he actually believes in, as opposed to playing devil's advocate, which he finds himself doing here quite frequently. So it's a very different tone to... I'm not saying Arwin's got a split personality or anything. He's just good at playing devil's advocate, is all I'm saying. But should you experience his show, it's very different. Go ahead, Arwin.
Oh, that's fine. You can say I have split personality.
I don't think you have
it's just that I'm not entirely sure if the other one agrees.
You're just getting into character for this show now, so Baldwin's being summoned, clearly.
If you haven't subscribed, do it now!
Do it now! Bad. Come on!
Right, any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No.
Maybe from the chopper?
Of the Earth.
No, the chopper is not going to drift.
No, it's not going to drift. I thought it was talking of the rotary variety rather than Earth-based variety. Not of the propeller variety.
The blades are spinning.
Right. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I don't know where it is. Right now, it's kind of gray.
It's not out today by me. It's gray over here as well.
Any evidence
perfect fishing weather.
Go on, Rams.
Without being able to get to it and actually find out what it actually even is, I can't even imagine we could work out how far away it is or how big it is.
What about the moon?
I'm surprised.
Yeah, same situation, I guess. If we can't get there and test it, then just guesswork.
My youngest daughter, when we went to a swimming lesson yesterday, pointed at the moon and said, was it at the swimming lesson? No, it was in the evening. Either way, she pointed at it and went, what's that? And I was like, it's the moon. You know what the moon is. She's like, moon. I was like, yeah, moon. And then she said, very far away. I'm like, is it? I was like, I don't know. Could be.
It's about 2 AU away.
2 distances to a rainbow. So the sun's 3 distances to a rainbow and the moon's 2 distances to a rainbow. But they appear the same size.
That's right.
They were talking about how the first bet on a football game was made in space from the astronauts on the ISS.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon? No, ISS operates in space, so fake. Can't have things in a presuppositional orbital path falling around sphere-shaped. No, doesn't work. Can't have gas pressure without a container.
Yeah, but it seems like they're ramping it up even more because they talk about that. They talk about stuff First of all, how are they getting this dust from Mars and mixing it with human blood to make something stronger than concrete? I don't understand this. They just keep ramping it up and ramping it up. And no matter what they say, if it's on TV or the radio, they're going to believe it.
Yeah. You can just make up any old crap though, can't you? I mean, same applies to Narnia. You know, if I start saying, did you realise that the Ice Queen made the Turkish delight just out of snow? Like, there wasn't any, and then there was some, and it was just made out of snow. What is it with the Turkish delight that isn't real and suddenly is real, and you can't make Turkish delight from snow? But everyone believes it, because it was on TV and they say that Narnia is real.
Well, there's that fantastic example of the broadcast of that War of the Worlds, wasn't it, on the radio? And there was all sorts of people that heard it and believed it, and and there was panic ensued.
And that's when truth was coming out of the radio. Well, I don't know.
Oh, how naive.
Truth, but...
I love it. That was when truth was coming out of the radio. Oh, yeah.
Well, wasn't as it is today, let's put it that way.
You don't think think the powers that should not be didn't immediately recognise the power of transmitting radio broadcasts and what that could be useful for?
Yeah, they did, and a few of the generals, MacArthur especially, said, and Patton said that this will destroy us, the media and the radio.
Well, gas pressure without a container, no. In fact, if you look up the matter in the liquid and gaseous state, both of them require a volume. They require a container. Last time I checked, the outside surface of something doesn't constitute as a container. So they say, well, it's the force of gravity. That's not considered a container in any shape or form. No pun intended.
Nope.
Either.
Just back to the moon landing thing. I remember one of the lines from Math Powerland being, I can't remember the percentage he made up or gave from the made-up study that they got this statistic from, but I'm just going to make one up myself. So we'll say 70%. He said something along the lines of 70% of Americans believe the moon landing occurred because they heard it on the radio. Any scientific evidence? Go on.
I was going to say, what do you think the percentage is now?
I just made that percentage up. I think it's at 74% now.
If you heard it on the radio, that's hot stuff.
That's what? I missed that.
No, that was Don in summer.
It's the incredible power of broadcast media. I mean, it was the only source, for information for people back in those days. A lot of people were illiterate, except for the upper classes. And so they depended completely on whatever they were told by the guy in the radio.
And why would he lie? With his very well-spoken voice.
We're told people were illiterate. For me, that kind of means, people were dumb or something. But it really just means, I guess people weren't, their reading comprehension skills were low or non-existent. But even then, I'm not sure that they wouldn't be able to reason logically. There's probably always been, like Nathan said, a segment of the population that could critically think, and then there's everyone else who just whatever.
Yeah, I think it's probably 10% of the population are just pure dumb. and 80% are just average, and 10% are critical thinkers. You don't need to worry about the other 10%. You know, you just have to worry about the 80%. And that's what I see when I hear people on our own side, that's the player side, getting frustrated because they can't convert somebody into their understanding, especially when it's a family member. And you're like, but the majority of people are like described in the Matrix when they're walking around the simulation, and Morpheus is explaining to Neo that most people are hopelessly immersed in the system. They don't want to be taken out of it. You know, and any hint that it could be something that they don't approve of will be fought. You know, you'll be met with aggression. So why endure that? You know, as I said, I don't know if this was in the pre-show or in the live show, but we were talking about Jaren and him saying, I'm sick of telling people go and do your own research and try to convert you and convince you that you need to check out your own beliefs, because most people just don't. They'll just spew their nonsense. So it ends up being, you know, you kind of become a bit apathetic to it and just go, I don't care if you believe me. I became like that very shortly into the debates, I've got to be honest. It's taken Jaren longer than me. But you've heard me say it plenty of times. I don't care what you believe, you know. And if you need a detailed description of what I think the world is because you've lost your current faith in what you thought the world was, I'm not going to be the arbiter of that either. You know, I'm not your guru. So, you know, take it or leave it. Research it or don't. I don't care.
I heard something that you probably know, Nathan, but I didn't realize that that part was specifically made for Will Smith and he turned it down. I didn't know that.
Say that again.
The part of Neo was made for Will Smith. They envisioned him playing the part and he turned it down to do the Wild Wild West because they wouldn't let him do a song in the movie.
A song?
Yeah, he wanted to do a rap song in the movie, and they were like, that's not the angle we're coming at.
The iconic song at the end of Matrix is Rage Against the Machine. Truly epic song. Could you imagine if that was Will Smith rapping at the end of the Matrix? Instead of we got Wild West or whatever. It just wouldn't work.
Oh yeah, you're right. That would have been a poop show.
Chocolate's not here to rattle off a terrible improv rap about the Matrix in a Will Smith tone. But there we go. I think Will Smith's a good actor. I think he would have done a good job. If anything, I hate to say this, he's a better actor than Keanu Reeves. So potentially it would have been a better movie for it. But Keanu Reeves did a good job of it. So no complaints. It's a good movie. But then again, if you add a bit of humour from Will Smith into the Matrix, it's so dark, right? It just doesn't lend itself to a bit of Will Smith humour. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know he can play... What was the one he played where he's the last guy on Earth? I Am Legend or something like that. You know, he can play those sorts of roles. He's a good actor, so I don't know. Just, I can't believe he wanted to have a rap at the end of it.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. But he kicked himself in the ass for that. He didn't realize it was going to be iconic.
Oh, yeah, because Will Smith's not iconic. It's not like he's worth millions. I'm sure he's kicking himself now he's penniless. Yeah, whatever. I don't think they work like that. I don't think people in the acting profession think, oh no, I wish I had done The Matrix instead of Wild Wild West. They just go, right, what's my next project? I'll have 5 million for it.
Yeah, but he thought the Wild Wild West was going to be movie after movie. That was the whole irony of it.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate that Wild Wild West is garbage. And I'm sure when he was making it, he was hoping it would be wonderful. And by comparison, Matrix is one of the best movies ever.
And Kaz Palminteri turned down Tony Soprano.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No scientific evidence of gravity. And he also turned down Sonny Black.
Well, what is it?
What's the definition of gravity?
Which one?
A container.
Exactly my point. Pick one.
Okay, well, we've got the out-of-date 106 years, nearly 107-year out-of-date mass attracting mass. If mass, then mass attracts mass is the hypothesis. Or you've got the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time by way of a causal relationship with the uneven distribution of maths. Maths? My bad. Mass. Yeah, it's all nonsense.
But it is all maths.
Are you trying to tell me that gravity isn't synonymous with container?
What? When I hear gravity, I don't instinctually think about something that will contain something else, no.
Oh.
I think of bending geodesics in space-time in terms of the current rhetoric. I think of pseudo length, breadth, depth, and time. Conceptual mediums in mathematics. That's what I think of. I don't go to containment. I mean, whatever would make you infer that?
Colloquially, it's thought of as anything sort of falling, right? Or weight.
It's what keeps you on Earth. That's what I was told. The only reason I'm not floating away is because the force of gravity keeps me on the Earth.
Yeah, they need to bring it in to justify how everything can stay on the outside of a ball that's spinning at rapid speeds, flying around through a vacuum.
Yeah, well, that was the whole bucket of water spinning round and round in school. See how the water's not coming out? That's why you're not flying off the Earth.
No. They're now not saying the Earth is rotating. Come on.
That's true.
Alrighty then. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Black Swan.
You're gonna need R for that.
Don't you have to presume a sphere to do that as well?
Normally the other way around, but yeah.
There's no evidence of the R value, unfortunately.
Any single
Or I'd still be in the Matrix.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet.
They're incapable of creating a valid hypothesis or testing one.
No, they could still do it. Right, Owen?
Wait, what? Say again?
Housekeeping question.
I was too busy typing. I couldn't hear it.
Any viable
Can
evidence?
the fields of astronomy or cosmology actually form a valid hypothesis?
They've got plenty of phenomena.
Well, not so far, but they should be able to, right? There are lights up there. Now, how they work, yeah, well, that's gonna require a whole lot of inquiry and testing. And then who knows, they might be able to eventually figure out some kind of hypothesis. But I bet you that if they do, it's not really going to have any kind of serious relationship with the current cosmology as it is believed currently.
I'm going to read out James Richards' super chat. So he says, for Dr. Bob and Globies, quote, "It's not what goes in the mouth that defileth a man. It's what comes out of the mouth that defileth a man." End quote. The earth and water curving is nonsense and defies reality. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, James Richard. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
There has to be, because that's how they use the sextant. But they start from the center of the Earth, right? That's how they get their 90.
Well, they're trying to create a reason for the magnetic field, aren't they? Isn't that why they're trying to describe a molten iron core moving around?
Would be if it wasn't beyond the Curie point of that induction of magnetism. Go on, whoever that was. Was that Adam 10th? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say it's really not the core of their argument, is it?
Boom, boom. Go ahead, Adam.
No, staying on this, to show a two-dimensional circle and to hold the sextant with a stick figure on top of a curved part of that circle and tell us that circle on a piece of paper represents a sphere that we live on, and you're holding a sextant in your hand, and from the surface with the sextant, with your bottom baseline, that's not a straight line, but curving away from you. And on that two-dimensional circle, it's curving away from you left to right. But if you were on the sphere, which is what it's supposed to, represent, it's curving east, west, north, and south. In all directions, it's curving away. But they can't do that on a piece of paper. So they take a circle and say, you see, if you take that starlight and it hits the Earth's surface, the GP of the star, and you continue that to the center, and then where you are, draw a line through your head, through the Earth, your GP, to the center, there you have a vertex. This is how the sextant works. This is how the angle works. You'd be commissioned to Bellevue. I mean, just look at the picture. That is not what's happening. That is what they want you to think is happening, but that is not what's happening. Angles do not work with curved surfaces. Sextant can only work with a straight radius from the GP to your GP. It's so silly when they try to do this, and they're missing the whole argument. How does an angle work? If you can answer how an angle works, the ball is dead.
Cool. That concludes the housekeeping. Do a couple of quick shout outs. So we're going to chat with Brian when he comes off mute, hopefully in the not too distant future. He's a bit tied up at the minute, but when he does pipe up, we'll be talking about his most recent video. Also, Mitchell from Australia is going to get another plug because he did a really, really good show yesterday. Very amusing indeed. And there's obviously his trolls, his regulars, and all and sundry in his live chat that he interacts with, and does a few presentations. Did a presentation yesterday. Talked quite a lot about homeschooling. If that's your thing, then check it out. But the Flat Earth School runs pretty much daily. I don't know his exact schedule, but certainly maybe Monday to Friday. Maybe he does the weekend. I don't know. But yeah, check him out. Mitchell from Australia.
Homeschool is the way to go. That's what my wife's been doing for the last 11 years.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah, the COVID thing was really handy in that regard because we homeschool and have since the kids were born, so they've been being taught from home, so there hasn't been a real transitional period. But they also do go to school because there's various different lessons that they have that are in schools. Obviously, they're paid lessons, private lessons. It's just interesting. I bring it up because yesterday 10th said, why did I spend all that money on private education and homeschooling? And time is money. Your effort in terms of your education of your children is how much you want to invest personally into it. And typically, if you get a lot out of it, which was what was being explained by Mitchell yesterday, you'll put a lot into it. He described it as, it's not just them being educated. They'll often question what we're saying. Therefore, it's us being educated because we go away and research things that we potentially just held dear, taught our kids, and then they go, really? Is that really the case? You go, let's just go and double check. So that kind of level of enthusiasm is, again, something that you can't instill in people. Some people don't want that and haven't got it. I'm not saying people don't love their kids because they send them off to school far from it, but by the same token, that there's a sort of interaction that you want to have I couldn't deal with sending my kid off to school because I want to interact with the eldest at the moment, who's of that age. But by the same token, she is still going to the classes. They cost an absolute fortune and take a lot of time and dedication to get her on a schedule and on timetable and actually sat down doing her English homework. And all those other things. So if that's of interest to you, like I say, check out Mitchell from Australia. He'd go into it. His kid's running around with him at the time. Yeah, good stuff. But also, Brian's on. Go on.
So if Brian's here, then I'll just hand it to him. But I want to give another shout out to Made by Jim Bob, also another channel out there who does regular streams, and he is very much into flat Earth debate mechanics, knows a lot of arguments, and is quite funny. And he gets some trolls going. So like Sean Hawkins is now all over him. And in a way, I'm actually kind of thankful because that means that Sean Hawkins at least is going to leave me alone with his whining. But Made by Jim Bob is pretty cool. And yeah, check him out.
I haven't subscribed. I've heard his name mentioned 2 or 3 times and I haven't subscribed. So,
all right, I'll post the link to his channel in the chat.
Cool. I'll subscribe.
I listened to him, Nate. Very eloquent and exceptionally well informed, with the current arguments. I've never heard of him before and pointed him out, but listened to a little bit. Yeah, he knows his stuff.
Cool. Well, Arwen's hopefully going to be on mod duties, sticking his link in the chat. I don't know if you want to get your rival Mitchell from Australia's link as well, Arwen. Dun, dun, dun. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, subscribe. Check him out. I mean, it's nice to scratch the backs of people who are on our side and promote them. So that's Made by Jim Bob. As I say, hopefully someone else, if not Arwen, will get Mitchell from Australia's link out there as well, so you can go and check him out as well. Brian, are you there? Oh, he's not.
Just 2 minutes, Nathan.
Yeah, no worries. I can plug all of this streams and stuff. Yeah, my YouTube ad revenue dropped. So pumping out the videos, that's what you got to do. Terrible that I'm reactive in these regards. Should be completely scheduled, but I'm not. In any event, I've got several videos that are coming out over the weekend. One is called All Maps Prove Earth is Flat. And that is coming out on, I think it's Sunday, at 10 PM UK time. There is also The End of the Earth, which comes out 10 o'clock tonight. That's on, both of those are on Nathan Oakley 1980 channel. So 10 o'clock tonight, The End of the Earth, and 10 o'clock on Sunday night, All Maps Prove Earth is Flat. After this show, so about 3.5 hours after this show finishes, I've got a show coming out called Free Sextant. There's a whole lengthy title to it, which I won't read out. But basically, Free Sextant is the main part of the title, and that is a Kumu virus that was being discussed in the pre-show with our frustrations, which didn't make it to that edit, because it was after 2 hours of straight circle-jerking Fundy chanting. But the main points did make it to that video. So check all those out. They'll be coming out over the course of the next couple of days. Hopefully that bought Brian enough time. Probably not.
Hey, I'm back.
Yay! I've run out of things to plug, so good job.
Yeah, I'm just plugging in my computer. I'll share that now in a minute so I can share the screen. Yeah, so my latest video is, as I said earlier to you in the pre-show, it's a precursor to something that's coming down the line. Although it's still dealing with issues right now. The whole point of it is I'm focusing on what I call the angular free space. Now, some people might call it a field of view and different things like that. But it's not exactly the same as a field of view. Because people can argue, as Rumpus argued with me before about field of view, how field of view is a specific term connected to a specific thing. So someone can argue with me about that. But what I speak about is angular free space. So the best way to describe this is, if you think about the sun, the bottom of the sun, between the bottom of the sun and the horizon, let's just say, right, when the sun is at 70 degrees, or 50 degrees, let's just say, right? Then that piece of let's say that piece of free space has an angular size. So when that sun is at 20 degrees above the horizon, that piece of free space between the bottom of it and the horizon also has an angular size. So basically what I'm talking about is the measuring, rather than trying to like people, this is the start of me doing it with the sun, but I'm measuring that angular free space, and I'm bringing it to a point where it goes into the 0.02 angular resolution limit of the human eye. So if you can imagine the sun, the closer it gets to the horizon, then that angular free space between the bottom of the sun and the horizon gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually, now I haven't done this with the sun yet. I haven't calculated it with the sun. I'm just using it as an example. Although the sun, there is a thing on the sun in my video, I haven't calculated it for the sun. But basically, that angular free space is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller the further from you that the sun gets. Now, to give an example, I used Ranty's 1 foot observation across to Barrow, which was to the shoreline was 13 miles, and it was another 5 miles then to the Barrow Town Hall. Now, Barrow Town Hall is 164 feet high, but even just to the shoreline. Now, I'm not talking about when he zoomed in. I'm talking about from being on the beach, looking across the water. Now, from a 1 foot observation, it may be a little less than this, but just looking across the water from the beach without a camera, anything that's less than 24 feet high, right, Ranty would not have been able to resolve at 13 miles away. Right? He can't resolve anything that's less than 24 feet high at 13 miles away. So it would be even more for 18 miles away. I didn't do the 18 mile away calculation, but let's just say 18 miles away was 30 feet. So even if there was nothing in the way of him seeing the Barrow Town Hall, there was just a straight horizontal between him and the Barrow Town Hall, then he would not be able to resolve the 30 foot at the bottom of it, let's just say. Now, it may not be 30 foot for the Barrow Town Hall, but I'm just saying 30 foot because it's 18 miles away, whereas to the shoreline, which was 13 miles away, was 24 feet. So if you can imagine that if the Barrow Town Hall was an extra 4 miles away, then let's say it could be 35 or 40 foot of Barrow Town Hall he wouldn't be able to resolve. So what becomes your horizon, and actually literally the horizon is basically your diffraction limit, is your angular ability is what creates that, right? So if you have something like a star or the sun or the moon or whatever, you can measure the angular free space between that and the horizon, like you do with, like basically what sextants do. They measure the angle to something, right? But the angular free space might be slightly less than that because it's from the bottom of it, let's say with the sun, to the horizon underneath. So it might be a couple of degrees less. But the whole point is that angular free space is shrinking all the time the further from you that celestial object gets. So eventually that angular free space just ends up being your diffraction limit, because it goes into at enough of a distance, it goes past the 0.02 average angular resolution limit of the human eye. So eventually, what happens is that becomes your diffraction limit and your horizon. So when people think that they're seeing something setting like the sun, they're not seeing the sun setting. The sun is the angular free space between the horizon and the bottom of the sun has that free space has hit a point where you can't resolve it anymore. And the further the sun goes away from you, then from the bottom up, more of the sun, of your view to the sun is taken away, because you can't resolve that part at the bottom. But with the sun now, it's a little bit different because the sun has what's known as the sun mirage, and it's a refractive thing, because as we know, anywhere below 15 to 20 degrees will cause things like stars and stuff in the sky to appear higher than they actually are. But basically, my whole the whole shtick of it is the angular free space, because the shrinking of that and the angular resolution limit at a distance for something. So what I did, I'm going to show now, and it just give me a minute or two. What I did is I did some calculations, right? You know the way I show what's the name of it now? The demonstration I show where something with optical drop on a table, where I move something away from the camera and it appears to go lower than the center of the lens. Do you know the demonstration I'm talking about? I'll show you in a minute.
Something away on a table. We've had it up a few times.
Yeah. So I'm just going to join meet there. It's going to mute. I'll join on my computer, and I will show you what I mean. Okay. I'm just going to share screen. Just letting you know. I should be sharing there now. Any minute.
Okay, I think we're on.
Okay.
We can see a load of video feedback, but yeah, there we go.
Now, you might see some pop-ups happening up here. I can't do anything about that. So what I did was I did calculations, right, for sorry, right. So I did calculations for different. I showed this. So get on. I showed this and me moving it away, and how this area here. I'm just going to pause it. I show how this area here with the black line is actually higher. If I bring it in close, is higher than this white line. But this area here, this angular size here of this area from the black line down to the surface. How as I move it away, that gradually gets closer and closer, smaller and smaller, so appearing that it's shrinking down into the table basically. And I show them with calculations that that's 9 millimeters. My camera height is 9 millimeters. So I'm kind of treating that black line to the bottom to the table as like 9 millimeters, or 0.354 inches, right, of angular free space, right. So I can't, if I had a table that was 1012 inches in distance, then I wouldn't be able to resolve that anymore. So that would look like that is gone. So it would look like this. It would look to like keep going forward and back. It would look like this here, this black line to the table. It would look like that the table is at the black line, because I wouldn't be able to resolve that amount of it. Even actually be below that a little bit, because that's a bit higher than the white line in reality. But we'll pretend for the moment that they're the same height. That piece of angular free space here would end up just looking like it's part of the table, if the table was 1012 inches in length, right? But the thing about it is right, right. I had earlier on I showed how 6 feet of angular free space will disappear or reaches the 0.02 angular resolution limit at 17,189 feet, right? So if you're standing with a 6 foot observer height out over the water, then at 3.255 miles away, right, then that the amount from your eye line to the water, that amount of angular free space won't be resolvable past 3.255 miles away. And I show how the average sailboat of about 15 feet in length sits on average about 4 foot over the waterline. So you won't see all of that 4 foot. You might see, you won't really see, I don't think you'll see any of the 4 foot. You won't be able to resolve it. So there'll be a 4 foot off the water, 15-foot sailboat that you won't be able to see. You will be only able to see the sail that's above that. You won't be able to resolve that 4 foot that's coming out of the water. You won't be able to do that. Your average eyes won't be able to do that. So I'll just show down here where 6 foot divides into 3.255 miles, 2,865 times. and 0.354 inches divides into 1,012 inches 2,859 times. So they're very similar. So they're very similar calculations. They're very close to each other. But what this actually proves, someone is feeding back there. I don't know who it is. Someone's in. What this actually proves is that the closer that your eye line is to the surface, because if you look at here, like this is a 6 foot eye line, right? And it takes 3.255 miles for that same amount from your eye line down to the surface of the water. It takes 3.255 miles for that amount of angular free space to be not resolvable, right? But from just 0.354 inches, which is 9 millimeters, 8 or 9 millimeters, right? That divides into 1,012 inches, almost the same amount of times. But the point is that the closer this proves that the closer your eyes are to the surface, the sooner your 0.02 resolution limit will occur. So we're standing looking over the water, and we're told for decades that we're seeing boats disappear over the horizon 3 miles and 4 miles away, when we're not, because of our very low, because we're only, our average eyes of somebody, if you're talking about the average normal men and women, it's probably about 5'4", right, is the eye line. Right, 5 foot to 5'4" is probably the average. Women are obviously going to have a lower eye line. Men will have a higher eye line, but not every man will have a 6 foot eye line. I'm 5'11" or almost 6 foot, but my eye line is not 6 foot. So if you treat it that way, it's like that's a very small height. But even though it's only 6 foot, I still can see for 3.255 miles before that amount of angular free space is not resolvable. But when my eyes are only 0.354 inches off of the surface, then at only 1,012 inches, that little 0.354 inches won't be resolvable past 1,012 inches. So it's like their claims for decades about us seeing boats going over the horizon. Now, there's inferior mirages and there's all kinds of other things that we know that we've argued about for 6 years that go on too. But the point is that you won't see that 4 foot off the water sailboat 3.255 miles away, because you can't resolve that 4 foot. You will still see the sail, but you won't see the 4 foot. That's the point. Anyone anything to say about it?
I'm backing it up with some of Ranty's photos that I've dug out while you were doing your presentation as you were talking about him. So at the start I had your, it coincidentally was the clock that we talked about yesterday with Akuma virus. So that's part, it did make it into the edit. So when he's saying we get a straight line to it, you're talking about the town hall and the clock. Now obviously this isn't cropped and zoomed in nicely, but oh, damn it, there's an arrow pointing right over where I've got the clock in the image, but there we go. Let's just see if I can transition it to make it a little bit prettier. So about here-ish when I move my mouse away and it stops bringing up those stupid flashy arrows. But also just some of Ranty's images with boats getting compressed towards the horizon. Just to back up what you were saying while you were saying it. But yeah, has anybody else got any comment on this?
But if I'm still sharing there, I'm showing a photo from claimed geodesist Jesse Kozlowski from 2016. And I went through this with him in 2016. And he also had a run-in with QE in 2016, strangely enough, over the same topic. And I spent 4 days arguing with the guy, trying to get him to tell me whether he included angular size change in his deliberations for his view here across the lake, where he was saying the center of his theodolite, his center lens, was higher than the marker at the back, at the other side of this small lake, whereas he's saying they should be exactly in line if it was a flat earth. And I explained to him, you're going to have angular size change. Did you take that into account? 4 days of arguing before he admitted after 4 days that he never took angular size change into account. That's how dishonest that guy is. It took 4 days. If I wasn't so persistent, if I was a less persistent person, I wouldn't have got it out of him. Only because I knew he was full of it and he was lying And I didn't know much about geodetic surveying at the time, but I knew bits and pieces, and I knew what was going on. Instinctively knew what it was. But I guarantee you, if you did the angular size calculations on the height of his marker at that exact distance, that they would match exactly what we're looking at. You know, so like they are basically, as you said, Nathan, over the years, they hijacked perspective, and they did. They've hijacked perspective and called it Earth curve. They've hijacked the angular resolution limit and the angular size of things and called it Earth curve. And Google Earth are still doing it, as they're trying to give the impression that things look like they've gone over the curve of a globe Earth, when all they've done is extended the angular size of something. They've made it smaller than a real life angular size would be in the distance. That's all they're doing. So they're literally extending the amount of angular change something has in the distance, just to make it look like it's gone over a curve. Because if they do actually make something look like it's gone over a curve, it won't look like reality, because we don't see that happening.
Shout out to Godzilla37. He says, shout out to Bobby and Virus. Without those empty cans rattling around the chat would be harmonious. Nah, shout out Refracted. Never mind. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support, Godzilla37. Okay, thank you for going through it, Brian. Was there other bits that you wanted to go through? Here we go. Yep. Got you. You want to go through this? It's Barrow, right? You're on mute, by the way, Brian.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was on mute, Nathan. Yeah, this is just a video I took where I'm looking. I'm about 77 feet or something like that above the water, and I'm already zoomed here a bit. This is land a couple of miles away from me. There's water between me and that land, and then there's water beyond that land and an island across the way. Now, my oil line is over here somewhere. It's below the height of this island here. It's somewhere down here, about a third of the way down or something like that. So I'm just show with this. Now, it's not perfect because my tripod wasn't brilliant, and it was a bit windy up where it was, top of a cliff, but it still gives it still shows what I wanted to show. So as I zoom away, right, that whole area there, so that little area there, I actually, what I'll do is, one second, I'll do something here now. I'm just going to unshare my screen a moment, and I'll share it again. 1 second now. Here we go. I just need to stop presenting for a second, and then I'll get the video, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I don't want to have my screen shared when I'm going into my own computer. And where are we?
Do not adjust your sets. This is not a technical issue.
No, I'm just trying to find the sorry, I'm going to have to go back to the video because it's not. I can't find what I'm looking for right now. So I'll go back to the video a second. I'll have to use the video. It's just going to take too long for me to find that. But I can show you on the video. So I'll go back again to here, right? And I'll show you what's going on here. Okay, as you can see from the top of this island here to this piece of land down here, there is an angular free space. Let's just say from, if we look at it, there is a vertical angular free space, right? So this piece of land here at the bottom, at the shoreline, to the top of this island here, right? It takes up this and much space. But when I play it and I bring it forward, I will do now, you can see that bit by bit, it gets smaller. That angular free space gets smaller, smaller. And now I look like I'm basically looking over the top of the island, when I'm not really, because my eye height is only about 3/4 way up or halfway up the island. But that little angular free space, as you can see, that's starting to become an horizon. So I didn't want that to happen, sorry. Sorry, that wasn't meant to happen. Yeah, that's starting to become an horizon. So as the further back I go, you can see that there's only a tiny little thing out on the distance, out at the distance. But when I zoom back to it, which I do in a minute, yeah. Please, if I just add the video, but I can't find it. As you can see, it gets bigger. So it's basically that piece of angular free space gets smaller and gets bigger. There's gets smaller, bigger. Right. Don't have the video, that's what I need. I wasn't prepared for this. Sorry. And as you can see, it gets smaller. But the whole point I'm trying to make here, and I would make if I had the video, would be that this little area here, this angular free space here between that piece of land here on the top of the island, and the island is 18 or 19 miles away. So that little piece here, that eventually, if I move back, right, the further I can move back from that, or it can move back from me, then that angular free space will just get to a point where it's just the horizon, because I can't resolve it. But that's the whole point. It's like we're being told for a long, long time that things are going over the horizon. They're not going over the horizon. The angular resolution of your eye stops you being able to see, let's just say, the distance between the bottom of the sun and the water or horizon underneath. That piece of angular space, that eventually just shrinks into nothing. So nothing is going over not that we think it is. We know it's not, because the horizon is not a geometric location. But the point is that that's what we were told for a long time, that what was happening, and it's not. It's an angular resolution issue, and that's all it is. So I leave it go at that, because I don't have the video I want to show you. But thanks for leaving me to present anyway.
No, it's good. Thank you very much for going through it with me. Or us, I should say. Excellent stuff.
Hashtag shit shrinks.
Damn chocolate. Yeah, when you mentioned QE earlier, I resisted the temptation to put out his hashtag. Exactly. Stuff gets smaller into the distance. Seems so obvious, but the fact that you had to take 4 days to get Jesse Kozlowski to admit he doesn't incorporate that is because, that is the circle jerk do-si-do that they have to do, because anybody who's paying attention for those 4 days will lose interest after about a day. And then when he finally concedes it, no one's paying attention anymore. They're all bored. Oh, this is a terrible show, if they're reading through the comments.
It's correct that things do shrink, right? It's like hashtag shit shrinks. But it's a little bit more, there's a little bit more to it than that, because they've basically taken basically what is optical drop, and they've called it Earth curve for years. That's what they've done. They've taken something that's just an effective perspective and called it Earth curve, and was something that's not really known. And the first person that I heard about this from, not directly, but I heard about it some years ago, was journalism, when he spoke about Samuel Rowbotham. Now, every time Samuel Rowbotham's name comes up, all you ever hear from people, and unfortunately from our side as well, is that he was a con man, right? Now, I haven't seen any evidence that he was a con man, but I keep hearing from people that he was a con man. And the ballers especially say straight away, oh, he was a con man, or he was this, or he's that. That's all they ever do. But the thing about it is that what he did, what a lot of people don't realize, is that geodetic surveyor, Wallace, was that the guy's name? There was a geodetic surveyor who him and can't remember, there was another man again who ended up going to jail because he knew this surveyor was a lawyer. he knew this guy was a liar, and he was trying to get the truth out of this guy, and things got violent, and he ended up going to jail because he knew this guy was a liar. But Rowbottom, what this guy did is that Rowbottom, he looked at, it's claimed that Rowbottom looked across a canal, and with his eye line 8 inches above the canal. So he had his telescope 8 inches above the canal, and he could see for 6 miles, whatever, straight down along the canal. And this guy came along, and I would say he was probably a Mason or something. That's speculation, but he was definitely a con man, because he came along and started talking about refraction, right? And of course, he brought 7/6R into it. This guy did, right? And he claimed that what would happen is if he went higher, what would happen is that all the markers, if he went higher and made a parallel with the surface of the canal, just like Kozlowski did in 2016, same exact thing, that the markers in the distance would drop because they're going over the curve of the Earth, and he'd be up high enough, and he'd be out of the refractive zone, right? The zone where it would allow for the most refraction for things to be lifted up. Because he was stating that what Rowbottom was saying was only refraction, right? Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that Rowbottom came back afterwards and annihilated his claim with optical drop. Because with a judge there, Rowbottom said, I'm going to do the exact same thing as he did, right? And he said, and what's going to happen is things are going to drop in the distance. And then I'm going to line up my telescope with the first 2 markers. So he brought his telescope up and he dropped it at an angle to line up with the first 2 markers. He said, and if the rest of the markers line up after that, he said, then you know that it's flat. But if they still fall away, then it's a globe, and they all lined up with it. And never do you hear about that story. Journalism presented it. I can't remember the full details of it, but he has it in a book. He presented it some years ago. Is that it was very clever out of Rowbottom what he did, but he proved that optical drop was a real thing. He proved it was a real thing, and he disproved this other geodetic surveyor. But if you look at the history books, they have it that this geodetic surveyor disproved Rowbottom, and that is not the case. This geodetic surveyor was a liar, just like Kozlowski that we've dealt with since 2016 is another liar. So all these people, there's a lot of these people out there who are hiding behind their professions, and they lie and get away with it simply because they have a profession. They hide behind their profession to get away with telling. They're just a liar, regardless of what they are. I don't care if they're a surgeon, an airplane pilot, a surveyor, they're a liar, right? If you're a liar, you're a liar. And Jesse Kozlowski has gotten away with being a lawyer, and this other man, I think his name was Wallace, has gotten away with, and in the history books on Wikipedia and everything, he got away with being a lawyer, and it's still touted that this guy debunked Rowbottom. Well, Rowbottom came back and absolutely annihilated the guy's claim with optical drop.
Perfect. Just a quick shout out to Retro Bill, who says, Nathan, do I need to make an appointment to make this super chat? When is a convenient time for you? Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Retro Bill. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also, of course, a massive thank you to today's live Discord and G+ panels for making the show possible. Stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
The public back then, weren't they? You know, especially in somewhere like Britain, where there's such a class
like today
system.
too.
Yeah. Not a whole lot different today, not a whole lot, but still, at least we have the internet and stuff to show that to record things and show someone's a liar. You know, when someone says something and then they
but Brian,
contradict it.
A regular knock-around guy who has truth is going to be frowned upon, and they're going to believe somebody with a higher education today. The same thing. They haven't changed.
No, technically you're right. They haven't changed. You know, lawyers are still lawyers, and they get away with it if they hide behind a career. You know, because basically what Kozlowski did in 2016 with these across the lake things was exactly what this surveyor did. Exactly what this surveyor did, and they both knew what they were doing. That's why it took 4 days for the guy to admit that he never took angular size change into account. Why would it take 4 days? 4 days for someone to admit something so small as that, if they weren't trying to hide it.
Surprised he even admitted it.
Yeah, I just cornered him. I just wouldn't let it go. I told him I'm not letting this go. Just wouldn't let it go.
Can I change the subject slightly? So,
sure, man.
Dave Weiss sent me a screen cap.
Allowed.
Dave Weiss sent me a screen cap of somebody who's on the Flat Earth Friend Finder app. So this, I'm just putting it on screen for the audience now. So this is the screenshot of someone in Antarctica on the Flat Earth Friend Finder app. It's a bit of a mouthful. So my response to him was, is this verified though? Does the app actually verify that it is their location? So a while later, Dave got back to me and said, I've got in touch with the app developer and he says it's not fakeable. Now, he didn't give me anything to qualify that, but he did send me this video, which I'll play now, which presumably he's just taken on his phone in terms of showing the geographical location of this particular person in Antarctica who's on the Flat Earth Friend Finder app. So there it is at Cassie Station, if that's how it's pronounced. There it is. So showing zooming in on this particular, I don't know what kind of station it is, but that kind of station on Antarctica where this person on the Flat Earth Friend Finder app is. And there it is. So just thought I'd share that with you guys. Thought it was quite interesting.
Well, anyone who goes to Antarctica and is anyway of a normal person, and they realise that it's not what they were expecting or what they were told, as far as if you spend 12 months there, you won't see a 24-hour sun. If there was a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, there would be 4K and 8K and 12K, or if there's a 12K now, video of it. You know, we wouldn't have to see fakes and stuff like that. So they go there. There isn't a 24-hour sun in the summer, and you have to admit this is not what if you're a normal person, a normie, you'd have to go, that's not what I was expecting. So, you know, it's like if there isn't a 24-hour sun there, then that's problematic. It's complete destruction of the globe, and that's why it's hidden. That's why they do their best to stop us. You know, they do their best to not allow anyone find out. They don't want you showing on video with a time lapse that there is no 24-hour sun in Antarctica. They don't want that. You know, why? Because it isn't there. That's why.
I will say one thing about this dude on the Flat Earth Friend Finder app. If he gets a flat tire or runs out of petrol, yeah, he ain't going to be asking anybody in his local vicinity to help him out now, is he? Or at least he's not going to use the Flat Earth Friend Finder app to seek out some assistance, as we had a nice story about that the other day.
He's one of them. Get him!
That was on, I think it was Mitchell from Australia explaining that somebody had run out of fuel or something to that effect. And they went to the Flat Earth Friend Finder app and said, can someone help me? And he got assistance from that app, which I thought was quite a nice story. Flat Earth Friend in need gets a bit of petrol siphoned up off another man's car or another woman's car who's also on the Flat Earth Friend Finder app. Cool story.
In Antarctica?
Not in Antarctica, no. But it's a worthy reason or a justifiable reason to plug Earth's app. So check it out. It's called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon and Zodiac Clock app. And within that app, along with the video app that will have constant updates from Flat Earth Debate as part of that section, as he's linked it to a playlist that I make and keep updated. It's also got the Flat Earth Friend Finder, more importantly, than my videos. But I'm going to plug me if I'm plugging him. Why not?
Gotta plug the boss.
So yeah, check out the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon and Zodiac Clock app. In the interest of healthy competition, there is also a competing app called the Flat Earth People Finder. And the Flat Earth People Finder, I believe, is also free. Completely free. So it does a very similar thing. It's not video based like the Sun, Moon and the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon and Zodiac Clock app is. It's purely a friend finder. So the Flat Earth People Finder is also an app that you can type into both iOS and Android and or whatever it's called, Google Play Store, I think it's called. And yeah, that's a completely free app that does a very similar thing. Very cool. Got competition in this particular corner, tiny though I thought it was, of the internet. And they're getting very popular. This has got thousands of people on them. Both of them. So yeah, check them out.
That's cool.
I think so. It's not long. It's not a dusty little corner of the internet anymore because of things like that. And as much as Dave Weiss gets a load of crap from almost every single perceivable angle he could get crap from, he's a pioneer in this stuff, right? He's putting up billboards about Flat Earth and developing apps that connect people. You know, why he gets crap, I don't know, but he does.
I think people get uncomfortable with things like billboards and stuff and apps. I think that's what it is, because it starts becoming real. Maybe more than people were realize that they were comfortable with.
Yeah,
people
those
like
acts probably trigger a few people like, oh my God, this is really a thing. There are these people out here that think we don't live on a magical spinning water ball flying around in a vacuum. Oh no.
Yeah, it is getting a bit real. And yeah, instead of it being a nicely contained, dusty little corner of the internet, you know, it's evolved beyond that. Had to be reined in. You know, they literally had to talk about it in Congress about what they were going to do about it. And then they've done it, in other words, censored us. And then where we were, the dusty little niche corner of the internet, the anti-flat earthers have filled our place because we've grown out of it. To the point where they need to suppress us to a certain extent because the growth's obviously too big. So, you know, very interesting, very, very interesting developments in Flat Earth at the moment.
And then when you have normies come up to you and say, why are they, it seems like they're censoring you guys. What's going on? And you're like, wow, I didn't tell you that. You actually went away and came up to that on that conclusion yourself. And you're not into this subject. But because of what I've told you, you went away and then came back to me and said, wow, they look like they're kind of trying to censor you guys. What's going on? I'm like, it's real shit, huh? He's like, yeah. Shit gets real when you start censoring people. It's like, what's the problem? Why are you censoring something that's supposed to be so silly when you have all these other silly things all over the internet, free to frolic all over the damn place, right? But this thing in particular,
well,
like Nathan just said, they had to talk about this in Congress. God, man. I didn't hear what you said.
I was just going to say that they're starting to go against a lot of things as far as censorship, like that they're extending censorship in all sorts of areas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
And that's telling in and of itself, because you could have two. You could look at it at the base level and say, oh, they're just censoring it. They don't want it out there, but they're not stupid. They presumably realise what censorship leads to. You know, there's going to be a subsection of society that recognises that, like chocolate's detailing. It's music to my ears, actually, chocolate. But yeah, because that's exactly what I detailed when it came up, and they were talking literally about what they were going to do, YouTube to Congress, about this flat Earth problem. And they said, well, we're going to put the tramp stamp on and you know, make it more difficult to find, etc., etc. In other words, all but saying we're going to censor it. Well, when you do that with pop music, what happens? It goes straight to number one. They can't be unaware of that.
Yep.
Yeah, people are intrigued by secrets, you know.
Yep.
People like secrets.
Yep.
This whole phenomena of fake news these days and misinformation.
These days, that ain't nothing new, man.
No, but
it's
yeah.
more at the forefront these days because there's that terminology of fake news, right? But that's old and busted, bro.
Yeah,
Fake
standard.
news been around.
That's standard.
It was
practice.
always
Standard.
fake news.
That's SOP, standard operation procedure, man.
Right.
Not only is it
It's
standard,
only that you can just see it now that you realize it's there, but it was always kind of there. And if you dig back, you will see it was always there.
not only was it always there, it's now just turned into projection. It's got so overt, the nonsense and lies from the media, the mainstream media, that they need to start projecting out people calling them out. So the people calling them out for their nonsense, they just project precisely what they are directly onto them. You're fake news. All right. Isn't that what we're calling you out for? Just, what is it?
Yep.
Clinton? You know, just project that shit straight onto your opponent.
Like a 6-year-old.
Yeah, literally. I know you are, but what am I? Fake news. That's what I just called you. Oh, I know you are, but what am I? I mean, it's literally the kind of conversation that mainstream media has right now. It's ridiculous.
But I think their power to influence as to whose voices get heard, and more importantly, whose voices and thoughts and ideas get heard, that don't get heard. Sorry. More importantly, is crazier now more than ever with the social media and Google, basically.
Yeah, there's more regulars to moan about it. So that when it's somebody else, a third party, a celebrity that's subject to that 10, 15, 20 years ago, nobody cares, right? But when it's you, personally you, then you do care. Now there's enough you personallys because of YouTube for it to actually become an issue. Hence it gets discussed in Congress. So, you know, that should speak volumes to anybody who's like, well, we're just one man. Well, yeah, you are, but by the same token, there's plenty of just one mans, isn't there?
Yep.
Yeah. Corporations are men.
There's actually 10 of them.
And you are the 10th, I guess.
Pretty obvious.
I thought you were the nth man, bro. Oh, wait, that's your Glober counterpart. My bad.
Oh, we're due a Globe Earth dictate, aren't we?
We are, man. I'm mad at that guy. We need another episode of Globe Earth Dictate.
Yeah. Making really good videos and then stopping making them about us. What an outrage. We're obliged now. Come on. Or you're obliged, I should say.
Yep, we're waiting, man.
How quick gratitude turns into disdain.
It was just too good, man. It was so good that it was just like, oh my god, I can't believe, like, this is so as good as it is, man. Awesome.
I recently watched.
A reason I say we do one is because he typically makes them after there's some major event that's cemented in the people's minds. And at the moment, the sextant, no straight line on a globe, 21 months of being told it's refracted, we never have no Atmo day. That is the kind of thing that typically would trigger a Globe Earth debate. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I think so.
We've had enough. Exactly, where'd you get your 19, all those sorts of things. You know, all of those are the subtle things that are coming up in the argument, frustrating us, but it takes a dude like that to put out a video to get me to say, oh, the audience are getting it, you know. It kind of makes me a bit more laid back and relaxed in some of the arguments when someone like him lays it out with the ridiculous rebuttals being poked fun at.
I could just see it now. All the books will be changed. Curved line 90.
That will be some shit.
Saturday night COVID. No, fair enough.
What happened?
One of the Globe dictators came out just after COVID hit.
Did it? No.
Yeah.
Because COVID was last year. Didn't Global Dictate come out like 2019? It didn't come out last year.
Came out. It did it in 2019. Almost as soon as it came out, like a couple of months into lockdown starting. He talked about Sassafras, his cat dying, and will it be added to the numbers? Do you not remember?
Yeah, he took a
jab
at it. He took a jab at it.
He took a jab at it.
Was that Eli? Top work.
I gotta go look. I gotta check dates now. Hold on.
It's been a while, man. Time has been flying quicker in recent times. So I remember saying, you know, a year will seem like 5 years in flat Earth terms. Like you look back on something a year ago and go, "Oh, that was ages ago." But I don't know if it doesn't seem to be the case anymore. It is actually a long time ago that some of this stuff actually happened.
It's a perception we have when we're engaged in something that time goes faster because we're so engaged that we're not paying attention to anything else. And it does seem from a perception point of view that, man, especially when kids play video games, they're just like, oh, have I been playing for 12 hours straight?
Yeah, what a waste of a life.
Maybe it's once you learn the flat Earth truth that the relativity of time disappears.
September 2019.
Told you.
That's the second time I heard that statement.
Yeah, but COVID didn't really drop heavy, at least in my memory, till February 2020.
Yeah, for the normies. By that time, the time that video had come out, I'd already researched the patterns that they got, the
stuff before. Okay, I see what you mean. I get it now. Or the pre-COVID crap.
Yeah. I'd already got over it as soon as they passed the COVID Act, which was very shortly after that. You know, I had my little rant and got over it. And then that was it. I never really considered it ever again. Yeah, time does fly, right? It's from the Black Swan, actually, because like 2-3 months after that, it was Black Swan.
Nobody ever claimed the horizon was geometric.
Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve.
While I claim the horizon's Earth curves.
Geometric horizon only exists in the maths.
Virus says he can see it straight out there.
Nobody's claiming we see physical geometry.
Right. But you can think of it as a physical geometry, though.
These are quotes.
You could definitely consider it. It would help a lot with your calculations.
Quotes. That was Planet Walk, AB Science, the Rumpus, and who's the one that you gave at the start, Chocolate?
Tim Osman.
And Tim Osman. They're all quotes from our opponents who formerly told us how much boats and buildings were blocked by physical horizons known as Earth curve. They're now saying nobody's expecting to see physical geometry. Nobody's claiming we see Earth curve horizons. You know, the horizon that we claimed was Earth curve getting in the way in these pictures only exists in the maths.
They're going to run into a wee bit of trouble there, since the mariners have something called the geographic range, horizon range chart, where they know by using the same math that goes with the 3959 when lighthouses are blocked, and they say, without even any altering of anything, the horizon where Earth curve is blocking the lighthouse. So they're going to have a big fight with the mariners, who've always been under the conception that when something is blocked is because it's the geometric horizon, the physical Earth curve. So
we're only talking about anti-flat earthers here. We're talking about people that brace against their own rhetoric in the first instance. The horizon, if you're a globe-believing fundy muppet, is Earth curve. Now, when we debunked it with the Black Swan, their response, as anti-flat earthers, was to say nobody's claiming it was Earth curve. That's their response.
Yeah,
and in Timmy's case, that's a special case, because he was claiming nobody claims that the horizon is Earth curve, as he was doing just that.
Right.
Yeah, he's got a picture of several horizons, and the title at the top of his picture of several horizons is "This is Earth curve." He couldn't make it up.
God.
He said it 3 times on the same show while he's presenting that image that he's been touting for about 2 years at the time, with a load of horizons. Like, nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve, end quote Tim Osman. You are. Like, right now.
Earth curve is the fabric of the Emperor's clothes.
Precisely, it is. Yeah, we can see the Earth curve. No, you're just seeing the horizon. Yeah, that's Earth curve. But it's beyond the geometric limitations of a physical sphere edge that could block boats and buildings. Nobody's claiming the horizon's Earth curve. What kind of idiot are you? That's how it goes. Nobody's claiming he's got any clothes on. Who was claiming? Are you claiming he's got clothes on? Because now it's your claim that he's got fake clothes on. No, I'm not claiming he's got clothes on. You said he'd got clothes on. Nobody's claiming he's got clothes on. Are you claiming he should have clothes on? Because that's going to become your claim now. And I'm going to brace against how you say he should have clothes on. Because he hasn't. And it's your claim he does. Said the anti-flat earther.
Right. Whoever claimed the Emperor had to wear any clothes to be dignified? Oh, by the way, he's wearing clothes right now. The ones you can't see.
Yeah. What do you mean? You think there should be 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath stuff? What kind of idiot are you? No, I don't think Earth's turning. Yeah, you said that Earth's turning underneath, or should be. No, I didn't. That's your globe claim. No, nobody claims Earth should be turning underneath. Single reference frame. Yeah, but the globe says there's 2 and that we will see drift and the Earth is turning underneath. No, you say that, flat earther. No, I don't. You're just an anti-flat earther debunking your own claim right now.
His clothes are in the maths only.
Yeah, they calculated how much thread and then they spent a lot of time pretending to weave it.
I'll throw 1 or 2 in Master B, Nathan, since I got a minute at work.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, Nathan, I might have missed this. You might have talked about it when I was out for groceries. But did you hear about George Netanyahu on Brandon's yesterday? He actually said that pseudo-Ramonian force space was proven because time travel is possible because of an atomic clock. And he really meant it.
Okay. What am I looking at? Master B? There's nothing in there, chocolate.
Anybody else catch that?
Might still be loading. Give me a sec.
Okay. I didn't know. Sorry, Arwin. So
right.
Flux capacitor
At
time.
first, we thought he was joking, but he spent half an hour trying to defend that. Serious.
Spent half an hour trying to defend the consequence of time travel. If atomic clocks, then time travel, therefore atomic clocks, right?
Right, because the decay of the radioactive material change was, according to George, literal time travel, and that would prove pseudo-Harmonian force space and therefore gravity. It's a bit of a stretch.
Right, I'm going to play Chocolate's clip.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know you don't. You're dumb as fuck. The horizon's not a physical edge. Do you need me to rattle off a few quotes from your own side about how non-physical the horizon is? It's 2020, mate. Try and keep up. The horizon is not a physical geometric sphere edge, Tim. Didn't you know? You seem to know about the black swan, but yet you don't know what it means.
What is it then, Nathan?
There's my black swan. It's actually been posted.
Sorry, the black swan we have debunks your claim that this touted shite that you've just presented, claimed to be undebunkable, has just been annihilated by the fact we don't have a physical sphere edge. And that's what you're claiming is Earth curve, mate. Maybe ignore it for the 7th time.
Any of those claims. I've never made any of this. You're strawmanning.
Oh, really? So the horizon in this image isn't Earth curve?
You're
strawmanning me or ignoring what I've just pointed out. So you've never made that claim. So the horizon in your image is touted for the last 2 years isn't Earth curve then, Tim?
Now that Tim is actually...
Shut up, whoever that is, shut up. Mr. Solaris, shut up.
Say that? Does anyone say that the horizon is Earth curve?
Yeah, you do, you dumb fuck. So you're saying the horizon isn't Earth curve, right, Tim? Nobody says that, right? Welcome to Flat Earth. So just for the clarity that it needs, Tim's just made it clear that nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve, right, Tim?
I've never heard that someone says that the horizon is Earth curve.
Oh, really? What do you think the Earth curve maths is asserting then, Tim?
You're a straw manning his position.
Can you shut up, Mr. Solaris, or whatever you're called? Perfect. Thank you for trimming that out. Excellent, Chocolate.
Wow.
Thank you.
always gets better and better every time you hear it.
The confusion in his voice when he says the horizon. Who's claiming the horizon's Earth curve?
I never heard anybody.
Yep. Glober doublespeak ages like fine wine.
I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!